Hey guys, this is Eric Weingarten with Weingarten Racing. For those that have been around my channel for a while, you may already know this, but usually on Fridays I do something with racing related, either be with the truck or the Camaro. I haven't done that in a while because really my race season's over. So it's been doing more just stuff that's in the shop, like today's video, which is about these Brodix Iron Killer 215cc heads. I have not flown these. You can watch our previous videos. I've done a product review on the 180 and the 200s. These are the bigger 215s. Before I start this video, though, I do want to talk about some things that's happened because a lot's been going on around in the shop. First off, I had someone who donated money to buy flow plates for the flow bench, and what they are is I went ahead and purchased them. They are the flow plates to flow a Gen 3 Hemi, and the bore for it as well. So I bought a 4100 bore, and the bore and the slider plate, that's what you needed to flow that head on my flow bench, so I can do the new Hemis that are on the Chryslers, like the 5.7, 6.1, 6.2, and 6.4s. So that's on the way. And thanks to that guy, he didn't want to be mentioned, so I'm not going to mention his name, but super great thing. But because he did that, I had more funds available, so I went ahead and bought another flow plate. I bought a flow plate so I can flow the Ford FE heads. So now I'll have one for that, only for a 4310 bore though. So thanks for guys that are watching. I know some of you have been diehard, been with me since when I had like less than 1,000 subscribers. You guys have really made this thing kind of grow, and I appreciate everybody that's watching this. But thanks for that. He didn't want to mention the name, but thanks for all, and other people have too. They've contributed a lot. I mean, some people just sent me cash, and I'm so thankful. All of that money, you guys, I try to put right back into this so you can have some great videos to watch. So anyway, but let's get to today's video. So a customer, backstory a little bit with this. A customer had sent in these heads because he had contacted me and asked if I had any Iron Killers in stock, and of course I don't. I really don't keep inventory. I only keep heads that customers have ordered. So if they order, I'll place an order and usually work on it from then. So he found a set though, and he ordered these from Jegs. And these are the Iron Killer Brodix 215cc heads. This one, as they are, comes equipped with the hydraulic roller spring, but you can get them for a solid flat tappet. You can get them for solid hydraulic flat tappet. You can get them a bunch of options. These also have 7/16 studs, but there's an option to get them for 3/8 studs. I'm a Brodix dealer, so you can get them that way. I'm just letting you know. Chances are most bigger warehouses like Summit Jegs won't have all their options available. You're best to go with a dealer. Now, these heads have a lot of features. I have yet to flow it, but I'm getting ready to. So you're going to see flow numbers on this in real from my flow bench. These have a 1206 entry on the gasket opening. And if you could tell, they're CNC gasket matched, which is a good deal. Looks pretty sharp. They also, as you can tell here, CNC bowl blended, which is always great because at least you know you got a little bit more consistency going on there. Not all companies do that. The other thing that they have is it's a 208 intake valve and a 1/600 exhaust valve. They're all straight plugs too, and this is how they come. Okay, so that's it. There's some things about them I'm going to point out just because I'm a nitpicky person, so I'm going to pick apart every little thing. Some of it's not all bad. I'm just kind of showing you in case you're wondering. I did vacuum test them first. So since they came assembled, and you can tell when they're assembled from Brodix, they have a little tag that's stuck to the head. I went ahead and vacuum tested them to make sure the valve job was fine. And actually it was. If you watch some other videos, I've had a few that weren't. So that's good news. The one thing about it I can tell you, and this is me being picky, and things I don't like. Oh, all right. This is the intake port. It doesn't have a vane. Most of the modern heads are newer design stuff, and this is pretty new. This has only been out for like 2 years. They have a vane that comes off the guide that goes like this, and it kind of directs the fuel, and it helps a whole bunch of stuff. This one doesn't. For the longest time, I wouldn't even wouldn't buy Brodix heads to sell as a ported head to my customers because they didn't have any vanes on their small block stuff. Like the track ones look exactly like this. I prefer a vane. It's just one of those things. It doesn't have to be on the exhaust so much, but for sure on the intake. Does it make a huge difference? No, but it does definitely help on the wet flow stuff. And to me, it's better. And it's not that much to put that in. Now, I don't know where this port design came from, but I do like the shape. So besides not having a vane, the port shape's pretty good, really good. It's one of the things I like most about it. Let me see if I can't shine a light in here. No, I have the worst lighting, and I know I'm not a cameraman. But anyway, I like the port shape, and let me see if I can't tilt this camera so you can see what I'm talking about on the short side, because I really like that. But since I'm at this view, though, I'll go and tell you something I don't like. Well, there's my flashlight right now on the port. And it's just going to stay there. Okay, it's just going to be a pain in my rear. Here's what I don't like. And this is common with as-cast heads. Here you have the valve job. See that ridge there? I am telling you right now, that's hurting flow. That's going to hurt especially the low lift flow, because if you think about it, the valve only opens a little bit, so it has to go around this ledge here that you've created for it to get the air past it. So typically when you have that, it hurts low lift flow. So peak flow, because the valve's more out of the way, there's more area for it to go around that. It's not as big a deal, but it definitely hurts low lift flow. And typically, being that these are more budget-minded heads, people probably are not going to be putting in, 700 plus lift cams or even 600 plus lift cams. They're probably in like the 500 range for lifts. So it's not helping it having that way. So just something to think about. One thing you can do if you happen to buy a set of iron killers, you yourself can grind these out, and maybe in some later video I'll show you how to do it. It's really not that hard. It is somewhat time consuming, and you can nick the deck if you're not careful, and then you have to have it resurfaced. So something to think about. You can also see it on the exhaust. Oddly enough, on the exhaust side, it doesn't hurt as much as the intake, because if you think about it, air is going this way and it hits it. The exhaust, it actually just kind of leaps over it and goes in. It does kind of help on reversion though, because then the air, if it tries coming back through, it hits the ledge. Not good. But it creates a hot spot. Get the idea? Anyway, it's not the end of the world. Just something that when you have an as-cast chamber, these heads are budget friendly. I think I sell them for like $1,200. You get it for Summit and Jegs about the same price. You get what you get, kind of deal. It's got a lot of nice stuff for the price you pay. So anyway, there's that. Let me go ahead and move the head and shine it so you can see the other thing about the port that I like. Okay, this gets you a better view of the short side. The way that they do it is similar to how I port my head, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But I really do like the way they do their short side. Even though it's cast that way, it's pretty nice. So I like that. Hopefully it flows some pretty good air. Now, I did notice this. If you ever get heads from Brodix, just for the record, usually they only have, these are the valve stem seals. Usually they only have a stem seal on the intake and not on the exhaust. I think because of the IK heads, they have them on both. The other note is there's no locators. Instead, they put these shims down that protect the head from the aluminum. I'm not a huge fan of these. I'd rather have an ID locator, but of course it costs more. These are budget-friendly heads. And if you look at the valve spring itself, they machine it where it can't walk too much in that pocket anyway. Still got more travel than I like, but if it was me and you wanted to pay for mine, which usually costs more, I throw in a locator. The other thing is, look at the seal. This is me being picky. This is gonna be hard to see, easy for me to see, but hard for you guys to see. It's not down all the way. So you can see a gap there where the step is. And part of that is, and I know I've never mentioned this in the video, but this is about seals, so this is something I'll teach you. These are my seals. These are spare Brodix ones. Now these look the same, right? You might say, why are these different color? These come from SI, that's where I get my seals from, and these are Brodix. SI from time to time, they change the colors just from the different batches, why are red and an orange. But here lately, that's all been blue. Well, if you look at Brodix, they're blue too, and they look like exactly the same. The reason why I use SI instead of Brodix, it's not because these aren't good quality, they are, but the inside diameter of these ones are tighter. So in order to put these on all the way, you pretty much have to, of course, you take off the spring and you put them on with the installer, then you almost have to use a hammer to pound them all the way down. Instead of, if you just try to do it with your hand, that's about all you're gonna get to go down. So it doesn't gauge all the way. So you might be, so what? The seal can sit kind of crooked like that. Now still it's gonna grab the valve and it's gonna do a well enough job. It's not gonna cause it to leak too much oil past it. It's just not, to me, it's not ideal. I'd rather be perfectly flush and everything exactly perfect. That's the reason why I use SI. Their inside diameter is a little bit bigger. And literally when I go to put them on like any Brodix or any of the other guides, I can use my seal installer. Let me show you because it's probably beat up. This, and I can literally just push it down and it goes all the way down and makes contact. I don't have to hammer on. So not that those are bad, it's just mine I'd prefer if they were down all the way. Again, me being picky. Do not think I need to email Brodix and tell them how bad they're doing. It's not, okay? It's not a bad thing. They're still gonna work perfectly fine. It's just me, I prefer it a different way. I will also say, why do I keep the Brodix ones? Because sometimes, this happens from time to time, where a valve's too long and I want to get a certain installed height. And what happens is I end up adding so many shims that it raises it up. Well, being that the SI valves are bigger on the inside, seals are bigger on the inside, they're not going to hold as tight on it. Once you get further up, they're not got as much grip. So there's a chance they might come loose. Then I'll use the Brodix ones. Because then they can only press in this much, it's perfectly fine. That's me. There is another way option in case you're ever in that boat yourself, which sadly they don't make these anymore, or at least I haven't been able to find them. If you get in a situation where you've added so many shims and you still have plenty of seal to retainer clearance, but you can't get the seal to go down enough, or it's barely holding on, you're trying to figure out what to do, and you can't even use the Brodix one even though it's tighter, what do? They have this one. These were made by PBM, and they came in their kits, and I really liked them. They were great for the purpose that they have. So if you've got very little clearance, this is ones you would use. Because if you look at the height difference between the two, hold it a different way. And just drop it a few times too. Well, there you go. You can tell the height is much shorter on this PBM one compared to like the SIs and stuff. Hopefully you can see. There you go. See how much shorter it is? So if you're raising up because of shims underneath, that seal worked great. Unfortunately, you can't get them anymore. At least not from PBM. I'm sure someone else carries them still. But anyway, there's that. Let me grab that out of there and put that up. So anyway, that's just me being picky. Now I haven't showed you the exhaust. I'm gonna show you that real quick, then I'm gonna flow it. This is the exhaust port side. Now the IK heads have a standard exhaust port height, so they're not raised up, which is great because some people, your header clearance can be kind of tight. So you take my Dragon Slayers are raised up, the Profilers are raised up, except for the 185. So having a stock tight exhaust port, sometimes you gotta have it. It just makes things better. For 99% of you, it probably never is an issue. There are some cases where it just is. Say for instance, like my S10, for those that ever put a V8 in an S10 and you've decided not to LS swap and you put a small block in. Although I think LS is actually worse with the swap. There's a steering shaft that literally goes like right down like this, just like this. Well, that header tube here is always a problem. So that shaft's in the way. Sometimes if you raise it up, the pipe goes underneath, well, it's hitting the shaft. So sometimes it's better to have the stock location. Now, the downside of that is probably not going to flow as well as the lower entry ones. However, we're going to find out. Okay, I'm going to flow it and I'll share the numbers with you. Okay, one more thing I want to point out before I flow the head. This is kind of new. Maybe if you never saw cylinder heads, or if you don't do this regularly, you probably have no idea. I think Brodix, I know they did, I don't have to think. Brodix has switched to either who they get their valves from or changed how they make them. This used to be the Brodix valve you would see in your heads. These are the 208 valve. This is a 208 too. I don't know if you can see the difference, but it's there. Okay. I don't know if they've switched manufacturer or if they asked them just to get them out quicker to save a step. But if you could tell, these valves were glass smooth all the way through here, and they had a longer back cut than the new valve. This is the new valve that came in the head. This is the ones that used to come in most of their stuff. So you could tell, you could noticeably see a difference. So the cutoff here, they don't have undercut stems, they never have. You could see here where it's not as polished compared to the old one, which was polished. But the biggest difference, and I'm only mentioning this before I flow it, because it's probably gonna have an influence, is the back cut. The back cut, which is right there, it helps flow, especially in the low lifts. This, like this, is probably gonna make the low lifts not as good because it doesn't have as much back cut, but it probably will help the peak flow like at 6 and 7, which, let's face it, if you're probably running these heads, you're probably not running that anyway. Just something to think about. I will say, I just finished a head for a customer. a big block head, and they were just like this too. It doesn't mean that the valves are weak, and don't think they're Chinese or anything like that. I don't believe that they are, because these ones, whenever you got these, you open up, they say from Argentina. I know for a fact Brodix won't buy Chinese valves. That's not their nature. Now, I don't know where they came from. They're not made in America, and here's a newsflash: most valves are not made in America. But anyway, they're still probably good quality. Don't take that away. It's just they're definitely not the same, and it's probably going to affect flow numbers. So, all right, let's flow them and find out, I guess. Okay, I thought I'd show you something a little strange. I'm gonna flow this head. I haven't flowed it yet. But with the numbers you see up on the screen right now, you could probably zoom in to see them. Those are from a LS head. This is an LS 706 head, which is a 4.8 liter. It's had a mild amount of port work done and cut out to a large valve job. It's now a 2-inch valve. So this is its flow graph, what you're seeing here. And we're getting ready to flow this Iron Killer, which is, it's a budget-friendly head. I'd say these are probably about the same. Although you're like, no, this is stock casting comparing it to aftermarket. True, but like to get this head done, valve jobbed and cut out to larger valve and all this, to make it back new compared to this new head, they're about the same cost once you buy the head and all the other stuff. So it's a good comparison, I guess you could say. I'm not trying to knock either one, but you can. I'm just giving you information. You can do whatever you want with it. But what you're going to see happen is the flow is going, this line's going to change. It's going to go up or down. I don't know what's going to happen. It could be worse. So let me go back to this right spot here. Okay. All right, let's get ready to flow it. The flow numbers will show there. Okay, I cut the valve flow test off at 700, so this 800 on the numbers I'm going to erase because those are from the LS head. And the reason why I cut it off is because the retainer actually hit the seal, which means you couldn't even run a large cam on it anyway, like as far as 700 above, because the retainer would hit the seal. You have to do a longer valve or something else. So I noticed that you guys are flowing it. Hopefully you guys saw the blue line will either go up or down as the flow numbers change. And just from what I'm seeing as I'm flowing it, it's worse than the LS head till about 5, then it's dramatically better. It's actually pretty bad, to be honest with you, at 200 valve lift. Part of that problem is because of that lip in the chamber and then having not enough back cut on that valve. What I may do it is flow it with the old valve so you can see the difference. The valve, by the way, both of them have the same part number. So, all right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do the exhaust and I'll let you guys see that as well. Okay, now we're gonna flow the exhaust. This is without an exhaust pipe. This red line that you see here is the current one right now is from that LS 706 head. By the way, I'm probably gonna do a video about this one later. So catch that later. But anyway, if you see the line drop, it means the flow was worse than what it was. If you see it go up, it was better than what this 706 is. My hunch is it's probably going to drop almost the whole way. Just a hunch. We're gonna find out though. So let's go ahead and flow it. The flow numbers will pop up here. Let's do it. So there we have it. You can see how the line dropped because the curve before was up here. I'm gonna get rid of these. Again, I can't flow any higher than that because the retainer's hitting the seal. And by the way, if they pushed the seal all the way on, I probably could have. Anyway, so yeah, it's down compared to the LS. There's no doubt about that one. I'm going to print these off, and I think I'm actually going to reflow it with the old valve on the intake just to see if it made any difference at all. It may, and you get to see that. It's like a little bonus content. Okay, let me get this off. Okay, here are the flow numbers. If you look here, you can see what they are. You know the ones I care most about. By the way, this is flowed on a 430 bore, no exhaust pipe. I care about the 4, the 6, and the peak. And the 4 is 216, which I'll be quite honest with you, it's pretty low. I would expect it to be higher, at least in the 230s. It's not there. 600, it's not bad. And peak at 264. The exhaust side, it's not bad, but it's definitely not good. Kind of a bit of a disappointment. Now, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, the profile on 195, they go like 266. Pretty good numbers there, but they flow like 230 here. However, on a quality-wise, because the rocker arm geometry is usually better with these, the stock exhaust port's different. There are some advantages for the IK head. The second column I wanted to show you guys was the valve. All I did was, and here's the two valves again. This is the new one. This is the old one. They're the same part number, which is BR81019. The newer one has less back cut than the old one. How did that do on flow? You can see what changes just from the valve. Typically, when you have a bigger back cut, it favors the low lifts and gives up a little bit at the top. If we look here, it gains 3. It gains about 4. A lot there at 4. Good gain there. Lost a little at 5, and then it actually gains and about the same. So overall, it's a much better choice having the older valve. Now, you might say, well, why did Brodix pick that valve then? It has nothing to do with the quality and stuff. It's more to do with this. I know at one point earlier this summer, they were having a hard time getting valves because even though America is doing okay, I guess, with this COVID thing, other countries are still like knee deep in it. So they're just having factories shut down. They're just not putting out stuff. Then we have our own problems with getting stuff from the ports. And these valves are made in Argentina. So I know they were having issues. So if you look at it from their standpoint, they needed something. So my thinking is, and I haven't talked to them about it, I think they might have switched suppliers because they couldn't get what they needed. And you got to think they got a whole bunch of heads they're selling assembled. If they ain't got the stuff to go with them, what are they going to do? You know, so I don't blame them for that. I don't think it's inferior quality. They probably went to another company that probably charged them way too much, but made it work just so they get product out. So it's kind of the sign of the times now. So eventually, I bet you they end up going back to their original ones that they had before. I think this was just an intermediate deal. I'm hoping I could talk to the customer and let me work the chambers, because as bad as these flow numbers look, I've said this before, I have done a 200 head where I've cut it out to a 208, the IK 200. I cut it out to 208, which this one already is. Did the chambers and just blended the valve job, redid the valve job. And the thing made 560 on a 406, which was like 10.5 to 1 solid roller with a Victor Junior intake and a 750 carb, not even an XP carb. So yeah, they still can make quite a bit of power. So anyway, that's the heads. And I would like to thank you guys for sticking around so long. And since you stuck around so long, I'll tell you this. I watch, you guys won't know this, but on YouTube, we get analytics so we can see how many long people have watched the videos. And most of you give up about halfway through, which is fine. I mean, people got busy lives. But because you stuck around so long, I'll give you some bonus content. Guess what came in? Showing you the floor because it's only half 30. Pow! It's a new transmission for the S10. This is a BT Power Glide. They were having their Black Friday sale. If you weren't aware of it, that's a huge discount. I'm surprised they're even doing Black Friday sales. So I thought that's over because you can't get anything. Nope, got it. And it was quite a bit off. This is almost the same transmission as what I run in the Camaro. This is a Power Glide. It's an aftermarket case, obviously, and it's SFI approved and all that. It's got a 1/800 straight cut gear. The transmission in the Camaro is almost the same. The only difference is the Camaro has a Pro Tree trans brake, and this has a bracket tree trans brake. What's it mean? It means for the Camaro, I have to hold down the trans brake button to engage reverse and keep it going. This one, you just put it in reverse, it goes reverse. So more helpful in the S10. The Camaro has been fantastic with the transmission itself, so of course I wanted to get another one. The only thing is right now the Camaro's front seal is leaking like a sieve, so I got to change that. But this is going to go in, and several people may not know this, but in the transmission that's in the truck now is a TCI Turbo 350. If you watch the videos, it's taken forever to shift. So I know I'm losing AT with that. So this, just having to shift once and instantly, is probably going to gain some time. And some of you have said, well, the 3-speed, it should be faster. It should be if it probably worked correct, but it didn't. I also know for a fact that Power Glides eat up less power. And I'm going to try to test this, because the S10's already been on the chassis dyno once. My plan is to take it with the new headers on there and see how much it actually gained on the chassis dyno, then switch to this transmission and try again and see how much actual wheel power it made from the Power Glide from the Turbo 350. But that'll be far later on. I don't know when I'll ever find time to work on it because I'm too busy with customer stuff. So yeah, but at least it came in. I can look at it in a bag, pretending it's still in the truck. But anyway, since you guys stuck around for so long, I want to appreciate you. Take care.